To my 400 affiliates across the globe, I'm Hugh Hewitt. Thank you for listening on this Monday, February the 24th. Here is the rundown. Coronavirus has skipped every boundary, broken through every barrier, and is running wild through the world. Not yet in thousands of cases, but in hundreds of cases in various countries. And as a result, international markets are shaken. Not yet shattered, but shaken. In Hong Kong, the market was down last night 1.71%. In England and Germany, the losses are approaching 4%. The United States markets will probably see a similar drop of between 3 and 5% today. And I expect the slide could continue for many, many days until there is either effective quarantining internationally or some kind of a development of a treatment. I've been telling you about this since January. You can't blame me that you didn't see it coming. Gold is up almost 2.5% this morning. You can thank me. I told you to buy gold in January. The 10-year Treasury, andrewandtodd.com, are going to be going crazy today as everybody and their brother is going to want to buy property in the next 4 to 6 weeks. andrewandtodd.com are mortgage lenders with Sierra Pacific Mortgage, 888-888-1172, and their phones go crazy whenever it's below 1.8% or 1.9%. Well, the 10-year yield is down to 1.47%. I'm blinking. Yep, 1.47%. And it will go lower throughout the day. Lower and lower and lower. And stocks will open very low, and they'll be off 3, 4, 5%. You know, Apple could be down 5% at the start of this market. They get really hit. Amazon could be down, my goodness, 4%. And Amazon is going to benefit from people self-isolating. How bad is it in the world? Well, China has postponed its annual legislative meeting. They have reimposed all of the quarantines that they had just lifted hours ago in Wuhan, where the virus began. Iran has confirmed the death toll has risen to 12. The Japanese are apologizing, defending, sort of passive aggressive about how they handled the virus cruise ship. As I mentioned, South Korea reports 70 additional new cases of coronavirus. Unfortunately, the virus got into a super secret cult, a messianic end of the world kind of cult. And I think they get together and huddle and hold hands, and that's a great thing for a virus to percolate in. And Iran is not telling us the truth. They've got a real problem. And I don't know why it went to Iran in such big numbers. And Italy's got a real problem. But what President Trump ought to do is put the vice president in charge of this, along with Secretary Azar of HHS, name a few governors like Doug Ducey and Ron DeSantis, a couple of Democrats, of course. Go get some big medicine people from Mayo and Cleveland. Go get some big defense people since they know how to produce things en masse. Basically go to war footing like 1918 because we've been expecting a virus for a long time. If it turns out to be a false alarm and coronavirus goes away, great. Wonderful. It could reappear in 6 months, which is what the virus in 1918 did. And yes, you should read John Barry's The Great Influenza. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is receiving what can only be called a rapturous welcome in India with Prime Minister Modi. Bollywood is producing amazing memes, which I've shared at my Twitter feed. They're funny. The president has announced a $3 billion defense deal with India. I assume that he said it's helicopters. That must be Sikorsky's. I don't know. Trump says namaste, hello in India. There's a massive rally underway. And I mean, just one of the most massive rallies I've ever seen in India. 1 minute ago, the president tweeted out, our two national constitutions both begin with the same 3 beautiful words, we the people. That means that in America and India alike, we honor, respect, trust, empower, and fight for the citizens we proudly serve. And there's a picture of President Trump and Prime Minister Modi. He's also posted a tweet in Hindu, which when translated reads, America and India will strengthen their countries, enrich their people, and make big dreamers bigger and make their future brighter than ever, and this is only the beginning. So pretty good, solid relationship with India unfolding on this trip. Contrast that with the depression in the Democratic Party. Chris Matthews on MSNBC on Bernie Sanders has basically locked up the Democratic nomination. And if you're voting Saturday, this coming Saturday in South Carolina, and you're Republican, help them do that. Go with Bernie. Super Tuesday is a week from tomorrow. Go with Bernie everywhere. Bernie, Bernie, Bernie. Let's get this thing over with and get to the main event. Bernie, Trump. Donald and Bernie, Trump and Sanders. Because basically, Bernie just crushed them in Nevada. Chris Matthews said this, cut number 5.
All Bernie ever had to do, and he's done it beautifully, is get a majority of that, and he's up to the mid-30s. If you get half of 67, you're into the mid-30s, and that's where he's gotten it a little better. Biden, his only prayer was to consolidate the third of the vote that's moderate and conservative. And he got nowhere near clearing that field. Nowhere near. That's split up 4 ways now. And so with new people coming in, Deval Patrick came in. He didn't make it. Bloomberg is in. He's probably going to survive a bit longer because of his money. But that field wasn't cleared. The only way Biden could win in that 1/3 of the vote that's either moderate or conservative is to sweep it. He got nowhere near. Bernie, on the other hand, did his job. He got more than a majority of that 67%. That is the name of the game. It is pretty much over unless that changes. I was reading last night, Brian, I know you're a history guy too. I'm reading last night about the fall of France in the summer of 1940. And the general, Renault, calls up Churchill and says, it's over. And Churchill said, how can it be? You got the greatest army in Europe. How can it be over? He said, it's over. So I had that suppressed feeling. I can't be as wild as Carville, but he is damn smart. And I think he's damn right on this one.
What did Carville say? Cut number 12.
Well, we're going to see a complete change in tenor on Monday night. If we don't, then our field is really dumb. I mean, Bernie Sanders is the issue. Anytime you become the front runner, I remember when we were the front runner in '92, we got all the heat, as we should. The New York Times wrote a Whitewater story, didn't get a single fact right, but at least they tried to cobble something together like they had a role to play in this. And we're plunging ahead. Meanwhile, the ABC Washington Post poll comes out. Buttigieg is plus 17 against Trump with college-educated women, and Sanders is at 2. These are the kinds of facts that people have to be presented with. We've got to, and I see that 2/3 of the Nevada caucus goers really want to win the election. I don't know if us in the media are sufficiently telling people what are the risks that you're running by doing this. I think voters need to really be appraised of what's going on here. Hopefully these candidates have the skill and are able to do this. We got a week to go before South Carolina, and then 48 hours later, you had Super Tuesday, and things are going to be happening furious and fast. And we got to gear up for an entirely different race than what you've seen before. The tenor it has changed in this race. The ground has shifted. Strategic imperatives are now different. We're entering a different time, and it's a very compressed and short time that we're in this time frame. So people had better get real. These campaigns better stay up late. They better be thinking about how they're going to put forward what they're about, how they're going to deal with the debate, how they're going to allocate scarce media resources. And some people are just not going to make it for very long, and that's just the nature of presidential politics. So we got a lot of news here coming up.
A lot of news means that Bernie Sanders is the nominee. James Carville went on, though. Cut number 13. He is not a fan of Bernie Sanders.
Right. Well, first of all, I won't mention names, but I get any number of calls from panicked congressional incumbents. I know what's happening out there. I got a real good idea. The entire theory that by expanding the electorate, increasing turnouts, you can win an election is the equivalent of climate denying. All right? When people say that, they're as stupid to a political scientist as a climate denier is to an atmospheric scientist. So whatever you do, if you want to vote for Bernie Sanders because you feel good about his program, because you don't like the banks on Wall Street or you don't like pharmaceuticals, that's completely legitimate. I understand that. If you're voting for him because you think he'll win the election, because he'll galvanize heretofore sleepy parts of the electorate, then politically you're a fool. And that's just a fact. It's no denying it. There's so much political science, there's so much research on this that it's not even a debatable question. And if people are praised to this and they know that and they want to do it as Democrats, that's their own business. But I don't think that they have all of the facts that they need before they make this judgment going forward.
You know, Generalissimo is running around inside the other studio saying that Bernie's going to expand the electorate. You just heard what James thought about that. I will be back. That's the rundown. Bad market day, bad news on coronavirus. Bernie Sanders in the prohibitive favorite for the nominee. And I'll be right back on the Hugh Hewitts Show. That's the rundown.